Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me? Oh, no, wait. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I had my mic. Oh shit! No, damn it! I just got McDonald's mustard sauce on my shirt. Damn it!
You have been mocked.
Ah, shiza. Oh well, that's character. If chicks don't want me for me, man, I don't know what to tell them. Well,
Dat mustard, though.
yeah, right. Um, let's see, man. Oh my god, yeah, I'm a little worn out. Yeah, I went hanging out with my dad. He's visiting from South Carolina, and he took me out on a boat yesterday, and we were hanging out all day, eating beer and drinking pizza. No, yeah, eating pizza and drinking beer. See, that's how tired I am. I'm getting my words backwards, but it was good times.
Prime boat material.
Yeah, exactly. Good bonding stuff, you know. Father son, have a slice of pizza, my boy.
Oh yeah, no, I love that. My dad's just like that. He's very like my son.
Yeah,
Let's
my
have
yeah.
let, let's have a drink, my
Yeah.
son. Very
As
like
oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say last time I visited. Look at my dad. He moved to Florida,
Uh-huh.
and now he lives in Georgia.
Ah.
And the last time I visited him, we spent that time chainsawing logs.
Oh, awesome, man. Awesome. That's
It's
like,
very
dude, that is
rustic
so,
wooden stuff.
it is so rewarding or just enjoyable. I've never sawed a log, but my dad very similar back when I was like I think like 28, which is like 8 years ago. He had some trees in his backyard that he wanted, like big pine trees, and he was like, "You here's an axe, and you can cut them down." And he tossed it to me, and he's like, "Go make me proud, my me boy." And I went out there, and I think as soon as he gave me the axe. I was like, "Yes, me lord, I'll go harvest wood." So I went and harvested wood. I chopped those trees down. Man, it's just like it's so basic, but you know what I found out is like whenever I do repetitive, like very simple hand tactile tasks, like I get in the most almost meditative state ever. It's just like all negative thought. It's just like I focus on that one thing, and I'm like, man, I'm really enjoying myself doing this simple task here.
Yeah, I think it's like a mini version of the flow state when you're doing that kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah,
Like it almost like it has to be, but you don't notice it until you've done it enough times that like it like delays. But
yeah.
for a more complicated thing, you can tell immediately when like you're like mastering its rhythm, and you're just kind of like, oh, the universe. But you do something like wax on, wax off, and you're just kind of like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Exactly. Oh man, I used to when I was going to school for my medic. I was working in a factory, and I had just gone through like a breakup with my ex, and I could not stop thinking about how she wronged me. I was like, "Damn her," and I was like, "All the things you did to make me suffer emotionally," right? Anyway, I mean,
Exactly.
I was sitting there working, and I couldn't stop being mad about the relationship, right? And I was like, God, why am I so? And then I kept work, but what at the job I was in, I was on an assembly line, and I had to get a chair and whack it. Its legs. It's like it was a school furniture. That's what the place did. It was in a big old uh, factory warehouse, and we just built school furniture, loaded on 18 wheelers. And anyway, that's all I did all day was an assembly line, just whack chairs into position to make them flush. And I just got into the rhythm of it, and I was like, oh my god, I'm not thinking about it anymore. And I was like, man, what a burden my like pessimistic thinking mind was. I was like, thank God, like I didn't even want to think about it, but like just those repetitive little medial tasks was like, oh man, this is like really nice. I like this, you know. So very
I think
therapeutic.
everyone's got a touch of that to some extent,
Yeah.
just because, like evolutionarily speaking, like we're all descendants of people who got really, really into that shit.
Yeah. Definitely. Um, Let me see here. Uh, oh yeah. So, oh yeah. Last time we spoke, I was working on this track. So I So there was a couple questions I had. I remember the last thing you told me was add a bunch of stuff, and I kind of did, but I've also been I didn't quite have as much time as I thought to put into the track, but I did add some stuff. So I had
Cool.
some questions in that regard, but also mastering. So I guess I'll start off with question number one, right? Is that I think I was listening during the Mr. Bill podcast, you were talking to him, and I think you were saying something along the lines of what a lot of people do. So I trained with this one guy, and he basically was showing me how he levels his sounds and gets all the instruments right, and then he exports each individual sound, like the kick, snare, bass, everything to a stem file, and then drags that into a new project file, and then adds a little more EQ, but then does the mastering process from there and really fine tunes it, right? And it's a very tedious process. And when I was listening to you talk about it, I think you were saying that you don't even need to do that. You kind of mix and master within the same project, but I think you were saying that what you do is you master like right away or start to, and because you can start to hear what the end product is going to sound like right away, and you're like, why shouldn't I do that? Because you can when you see it at the end product, you can kind of be like, oh, I'd like to adjust this. And so I kind of ran into that problem when I used the one method of mastering, where I export the stems and I do all this stuff, and then I master, and I'm like, oh man, it doesn't sound right, or my tonal balance is off. And I was wondering if you could like talk me through that, like the benefits and how you actually master, like as you're doing it.
Sure. So there's one underlying very important thing that rendering helps with,
Okay.
which is dealing with like the technical processing problems.
Yeah.
Aliasing, just regular old resolution based just stuff.
Okay.
And it's possible to deal with that when you're doing it live, but it's usually like only if it's something you're paying attention to like all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I managed to get there through two paths simultaneously. Like I had to do both, and I wasn't so much intending to do this, but this is just what happened, which is that I did kind of get used to how it sounds and feels as a quality, but at a certain time, at the same time, I also did not get used to it, and I largely like just avoided processes that were problems, like using FM and whatnot, especially in the digital world. It's severely limiting because the highest frequency things that you can do to smash them all together, you are going to generate aliasing so hard that it's going to be more alias than tone. And you can run the anti-aliasing, but that's hard CPU. It's just not tenable to be doing that on literally every individual thing and every process and every step. But if you know what you have, if you have like a defined piece of content and you're like, all right, I'm going to go master this now.
Yeah.
And it's about like not messing with it, then that's when you need to sort of think about doing that. You might not have to do that, but you might want to think about doing it. There's an entire process of mastering that we've brought up before, series limiting. This thought that like instead of doing kind of solve for end maneuvers, which is what I'm partial towards, using Maximus to have a special curve that essentially does that series process. But if you put render steps in between, you can do fun parallel things. Like did I show you that thing with the phase canceling and distortion stuff?
I don't remember.
Well, just basically, distortion modules in general, when they if you look at the output form of your waveform, it alters the shape of your waveform, and it does that by way of adding harmonic content to the signal to change that shape. And that math comes out a lot of ways, but usually what that, almost 100% of the time, it's adding to the signals in such a way that the original signal is actually still in there. So you can, if you phase cancel it with its original signal, you're given mathematically only what the distortion added to the signal.
Oh.
So you recombine it with a correct phase original version, and then you get straight up just what it sounded like when you distorted something, but now with original signal and distorted signal as like separate things, and you can EQ them and stuff like that.
Huh.
You can mid-side and stuff like that. It's very tight.
Yeah.
And I use it for what like Ozone would call harmonic excitement, which is that like I want the toppest tingest touch of distortion, but I don't actually want the low end ruination that comes with it. And so I'll just do that. And something else I'm also fond of saying is that compression and distortion are basically the same thing. It's just that compression has a time variable attached to it, and that means that it will change the shape if it's done fast enough. It's just that it's not supposed to be done fast enough, specifically so that it will not do that. But it still has the same result, which is that whatever happened after the fact is on top of what you just did. So if you take it out parallel-wise, you're going to get an addition. Like, you can do that. So series limiting step by step. Imagine putting that in the step. Imagine being able not to just, like, be able to compress your signal, but then to, like, surgically remove erroneous, like, frequency results out of there. And then if you're doing that at the master level, you definitely want to render that. You definitely don't want to exist for a single second with that being, like, a process that could be taking CPU, be adding aliasing, not being, like, its perfect self.
Yeah. Yeah, I would think that would be, like, a really intensive CPU processing to achieve the, especially
Intense
like,
enough?
Yeah. Oh yeah,
Intense
definitely.
enough that there's an entire DAW dedicated doing to only this. It's called Sequoia.
Really?
Yep, it is a mastering DAW. It's extraordinarily high resolution, and you don't really do anything in it except like alter levels and level adjustments. And it's like a super like sample to sample kind of processing deal.
Huh. Gotcha.
And yeah, so your job in there when you're doing that and you're doing series limiting stuff, what you're mostly trying to do is mitigate the problems of live digital synthesis. And those problems are all resolution based and timing based, and in the analog universe, there's not there at all. And you could do the analog version of live all day if you actually had the whole ass $1 billion studio with all the gear, all the boards, all the connections. You could do the my version of doing it all live because you actually have the clean output to do it.
Yeah.
Like, you could just have 7 actual physical compressors in a row with all that crapping away, and then you've got yourself your series limit. Though, but I mean, in digital life, the advice has almost always been to do as little as possible, as few steps as possible, just because every extra additional step adds noise.
Yeah.
Almost no matter what you do, that's there, unless it's something that you're like directly staring at and are mitigating intentionally.
Okay.
Which, like, I do more now of that.
Yeah.
Before, I was saying I would do the avoidance. I would just choose not to do particularly harsh FM. I'd choose not to distort particularly hard, and always be wondering where these extra gnarly sounds are coming from when I hear what sounds like intensity that I can't survive coming out of the sound.
Yeah.
Being like, oh, that sounds like a thing I've done, but cleaner and better. I think, what? It is not always about it being hardware. Sometimes it's just not live. It just got rendered, and then it's the equivalent of hardware. It's, you know, a solid recorded sample that you don't really touch.
Yeah. Huh. Excuse me. Yeah, that was I was also listening to the previous stream we did, and you were talking about hardware and the benefits and how hardware just doesn't have these limitations, or not. I guess it can just do what it's meant to do, whereas within software we have to kind of go this roundabout way of achieving the same results and whatnot, you know. But yeah,
there's a lot about my techniques that I didn't realize that I was focusing on, like on damage control as like a huge percentage of what my sound design is.
Yeah.
And versus until because my big thing about, like, I would use hardware. And this is true just about when I use anything new, is that I'll do whatever about it is cool and unique, and I'll either discover or feel how it is possible for me to get there with tools I already have. So, like, I like Native Instruments Razor, for example, is a Harmor type thing. It's additive.
Yeah.
And it could do some stuff that Harmor can't do by default by just sitting there. But if I look at it for a second, I can figure out how to do it with Harmor, and then I just never have a cause to ever go to Razor again. despite the fact that Razer absolutely did unique shit, definitely taught me something, and was totally usable and totally cool.
Yeah.
I just went back to the tools I was used to. That's just what happens.
Yeah, yeah. I wonder if Aerosmith
But
ever made
yeah,
any other synths besides Razer.
who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a bunch of new reactor crap I haven't been keeping track of.
Yeah,
It's
I just bought a I forget what it is. Some giant thing for reactor blocks by somebody, but it just looked cool. Their marketing was really good, but yeah, no. Reactor, I'd like to see a new man, there's a couple things. I'd like to see a new B4 organ. I'd like them to bring that back. A new Pro 50, like a new Pro 53, updated absinthe. FM, I think FM8 like horribly needs an update. Uh, but I mean,
well, I
there's
don't know that
citrus.
native instruments are gonna go back to like software design as like a focus.
Yeah, they
As
seem to have gone more like a splice or like sound pack kind of way.
well, it's support for their hardware business. Like
Oh,
that, like because I have a Machine Plus, and it's a device that I won in a contest, and it's not something that I personally would have chosen to purchase, but having used it, and what I've noticed is that like as a company, their trajectory seems to always have been do software, get into hardware, and then do hardware.
oh,
And I gotta wonder, like I don't, God, shit, I just realized, damn it, it's like comparing movie sales to video game sales, because
huh?
video games cost more
Yeah,
just by default.
yeah,
So it's not like a unit per unit business anymore. It's like you gotta talk revenue numbers.
huh?
Meanwhile, software can be pretty expensive, but it is not as expensive as hardware.
Yeah,
And I actually think hardware overhead is less. Like I think you can actually get more margin and profit out of hardware just because you're not inventing a lot of shit. You know what I mean?
yeah,
You're just paying for the process, and
uh,
then you do it, and it's there.
yeah,
Meanwhile, software requires like constant development and maintenance and pressure and focus, and you pay for it and you get the money, but it's
yeah,
also infinite. It's the store. But anyway, moral of that story is that like I don't think Native Instruments is gonna like really, because like they did that massive refurbish, right? Like they made Massive, and then they had Massive X, and like it was not competitive. It just wasn't.
yeah.
It
It's like a it's like I feel like it's a nice bread and butter synth, but it's like and it I like the modular section. It just doesn't do enough of what I wanted it to do.
yeah. If nothing else existed, it'd be great.
Yeah, yeah,
That damn, like the OG Massive was like a landscape changer,
mm-hmm.
and then and same thing with FM8. Like just having that available as a thing to use at all was not so just crazy.
Yeah,
And I feel like if they went into like looking into what exactly it would take to do that again, like to be powerful enough to actually be like noticeable in software now, it would be to go so far as to be meaningless.
huh?
Like there's only so much crap like you can solve. Like how many people want to have 1,000 oscillator FM synthesizer?
Yeah,
Who would even
right.
know? Who would know what to do with that?
Yeah,
But what I was saying about hardware a while ago is that my first sensation when I was using it a lot was I would get to some really cool sounds, and then I would think about, well, can I do this with synths and like with the digital stuff? And the answer was always yes, but it would have been really hard. And I would think like of all the weird processes and stacks and like layers and crap I'd have to do this, which did not take many steps usually in whatever hardware things I'm doing.
yeah,
And more recently, what I realized is that really the only really real reason why that's true is because a lot of that is damage control. A lot of that is I can't just send the signal through a distortion without consequence. I can't just move the filter as fast as I want without consequence. I can't just have a delay. I can't just vocode. I can't just. There's no just doing anything.
yeah,
There's doing it, and then there's dealing with whatever incredible jank is created as a result of it. And if I just raw it, if I just put it out and put it in a signal, it comes out a very identifiable kind of jank. A very like that's that digital wall. And a lot of mine older shit had that quality to it. It was a
yeah,
lot of like before I knew how to separate subs. That was my life. That was very like, yeah, that's that. And separating subs is actually one of those things we do to mitigate the damage that comes from how imperfect the digital process is. It doesn't seem to make sense because you're thinking like, oh, well, we just do that for power, and low end power is not related to, like, how does that work? And one of those analog qualities that people talk about a lot, that like quote unquote warm sound, isn't just that there's no aliasing. It's that the material that's left is so harmonically perfect that like the phase canceling rate is at the rate of the fundamental. That's the thing that really is giving us the bass sensation, more so than the actual oscillation at that frequency. And it's like I'm constantly surprised by how I can like load up my peak, my Novation peak, just play 8 saw waves next to each other, and they're so ridiculously clear that I can hear the interplay between the chord as a tone way more than I ever could in this digital world. And just the fact that that is true makes it very, because I heard, you know, people said the same stuff when I was coming up, like, you know, well, like, why does that sound so much better than like this descriptively identical thing?
Yeah.
And they'd just be like, I don't know what to tell you, man. Use hardware.
Yeah.
And I take that as a challenge. Well, A, because I didn't have any money, but B, also because like that, I had seen and heard things done digitally that I knew there could be at that level. I just didn't know that I was a crazy hodgepodge of puzzle piece nonsense to have to replicate it.
So I got a mouthful of McDonald's.
Go for it.
Yeah, that's crazy, but I guess we're getting, like you said last time, we're approaching a point where hopefully a lot of these things are being identified and ironed out in the software realm.
Yeah, in my opinion, the next big leap is gonna be with just like brute forcing the horsepower, where, because like audio processing has been so very light for so very long, but it came out of an era of not trying to do that. Like hardware, a lot of our digital life is based on what the hardware configurations were about, and the hardware configurations, having been built in physical space, were all about efficiency and power. Like, do the smallest, best circuit, do the most efficient thing with the least stuff.
Yeah.
And then into, you know, replicating all of that into digital was great, and especially in the beginning when everything was shitty. And now we're at this point where we have like just astounding amounts of extra power, so much so that we were running out of shit to do with it. Because like we can add so many layers, we can just add more things, and we will run out of stuff to add before we run out of the power required to run it. So what I'm hoping for is either just like maybe we all just decide to go work in 96 kilohertz forever, because that's just as good as a solution as like getting good at your anti-aliasing. You know what I mean? It's basically super sampling.
I see. Yeah, like super high res. Let me see here. Well, I guess one of the things I was gonna. Well, I guess we'll pick up from kind of where we left off here. Let me see. Oh wait, I'm not sharing my screen, am I? Yeah.
You were not.
Let me do that. That might actually help.
Vision.
Boom. Okay, there we go. Now let me see if you got audio. You hear that?
I can.
Okay, cool. So I know you said add a bunch of stuff. I guess I'll play like the busier parts and see what you think about it, and see if you think more should be added in what particular. So I'll take the vocals off and just play like the actual like synths and drums and whatnot. So. So that's kind of what I got right there. And whenever you told me to add more stuff, So here's another thing I want to understand the difference in, right? Because I trained with one guy, and he was telling me one thing to be careful of. He was telling me not to add too much stuff because he thought that I was overcomplicating things, and he was also telling me that like I guess I would add like a bass that was like bum 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 in a certain kind of swing and pattern, right? And then I'd add another bass and another bass, and he was telling me that I was adding too many different rhythms, even with like the mids and leads and stuff. And he was saying that it was confusing to the listener to listen to because he said I had all these different rhythms of like how the instruments went, and he's like it didn't make sense, you know. And I was wondering, what do you think about that? As far as like, should the music kind of follow the rhythm of other elements in it?
All right, so this is actually an aspect of mixing.
Okay.
That isn't related to it too often in discussion, but it's something I'm taking an interest in recently. Is a thought of if you could imagine like you had your EQ, right, and it's like, you know, here's my low hertz to high hertz, and then you had just another version of it that didn't show you low frequency to high frequency, but it showed you like super low frequency, and in reference to rhythm timings. So now it's not hertz anymore. Now it's 16th notes, 32th second notes, 64th notes, that kind of thing. And that stuff, just like regular harmonics, has a harmonic life. And if they're not together, they'll phase cancel. It just takes longer, and the harmonics are bigger. And it comes out messing with power. So though, when he was saying don't add a lot of stuff, and I was saying add a lot of stuff, I don't think the two of us are thinking about the same stuff.
Okay.
When most like writing focused people, which that person sort of sounds like just in the way they talked about instruments, to hear the words lots of stuff, they're imagining, oh my god, you want to add whole house instruments and have whole house instrument power added to your track.
Yeah.
And that's not what I'm after.
Okay.
What I'm after is doing what would be the consequence of that, but with like the final touch already. So like only like the top end of it, really. Usually.
Okay. Yeah.
And that it's like the sleight of hand version of what could be a perfect mix. Like imagine the most beautifully perfect, flawless like Seven Lions super wall sound thing that has everything and also loud and sharp and mix and right. And you look at the project, and you can look at like the pre-filtering or whatever, and you can see the huge list of things. But then don't even try to do that. Try and look at it as the actual finished thing, and take out every piece that you can identify of anything you can hear, and only make of what you can identify of it. And without like the big main power of the low stuff of it, you won't actually have to do the huge compression work to get to the end of it where it sounds like that. It will just start sounding like that. It'll just like have that quality. So when I say add more stuff, like it's true that they will have. The point is to sound like as though there are additional instruments, but you already do have the primary power going, which means no more of that, no more things that overshadow the points that you've already created. Just things that fit into like the remaining extreme spaces.
Okay, yeah. And I remember when you showed me kind of in Maximus, you're like, okay, solo, I'll show you here. You're like, solo the kick and the sub, or like the low frequency here, and you see where that kind of bucket divot is right there, and you said we want to fill that space in with a bunch of, you know, those are the spaces we wanted to fill in. That's what essentially you're talking about, I'm guessing, right?
And just not with lower frequency.
Yeah,
the lower frequency is the thing making the bucket, and then the other frequencies have to fill it in there. And then they also make their own buckets. Like they are not necessarily visible at the regular rates, but they exist in like the musical writing sphere. Like when you decide to add more notes in a chord, for example, is doing that.
Okay, cool. So let me check my mids here, or let me check the total. Yeah, so that looks more filled in there. Well, phone just buzzed. Okay, so I understand. I understand what you mean with, you know, the filling in the buckets. So with what I've showed you, where's a good sort of next step to start working on as far as in this project?
So this is where I start building the reinforcement stuff.
Okay.
Try to identify like what shape the remaining area of like the wall I want to fill in, and see if I can just make that shape. If I can just make it out of a thing, that'd be great. But usually what happens is I'll just like is for this here first step, I just make a big smasher chord that happens on just the beginnings of every bar.
Okay.
Like really not complicated, like basic ass super saw pluck, like that kind of stuff.
Uh-huh.
And there would not with the intention that that's going to be like a super primary thing exactly, because you've already got the primary stuff. Remember?
Yeah.
So that's the guide, right? You make the sound, you do the element, make the chord, and then when you go in there and you're going to be like, well, what should it sound like? How should it feel? It's just less than the stuff that's there.
Okay.
That's all.
Okay. So if I was to do, let's say, so you're saying just throw in like an like essentially like a chord, I guess that would almost mimic the keys that my pads are playing. Like, oops. Anyway,
Yes.
But okay. So what would could I just throw? Where would be a good start to do that? Throw open like a harmor and do like some sort of like saw, super saw kind of sound.
Yes.
Okay. Let me see. All right. Ah. Maha.
Oh, yeah. Blech.
Blip. Damn it, Bob. Why'd I go that far?
That'd be a great April Fool's prank if, like, just for a second, the plugin stopped making synth sounds and all the notes just made a sound of a guy going, "Duh."
Yeah. Hire Mike Judge to do those sounds or something like that. Damn my phone. Hold on a second. This thing's distracting. Let me turn this off. No. Yeah. Okay. I actually don't have a. I actually. It would take me a moment to like think of a sound to do inside of this.
Well, let's do a fast one.
Okay.
My kind of fasty biz. I just turn on the unison all the way up. There's 9 voices. I don't even touch the settings.
Okay.
Like and if I'm trying to be fast here, what I want to do is I don't want to get caught up in the immediate detail work just yet.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I want to go in there in unison and mess with it, but like I don't really know why I'm doing that yet. So I got to do things to have a text section and a feel.
Yeah.
So do that, and then the next step, put a plug on the frequency of the low pass filter. That's just there. Not literal pluck. Yeah.
Oh.
So that might get used.
Okay. So you're talking like volume.
So articulator, and then.
Yeah, that's right. Articulator.
It's the third one. There it is. And then, yep. So the butt. Hold on. All right. So how I usually do this is that I snap it to the middle line. So that line there represents where the knob is.
Okay.
So if you make a pluck, so that's also acceptable. Like it just means that it's a little bit easier to tell. Like you put the knob somewhere, and then it's going to go down to it or down from it, that kind of thing.
Okay.
So that pluck is going to go all the way down from all the way up to all the way down, and that might be a bit extreme. So what I would do is reduce the envelope knob. Actually, I would leave the shape alone. At this point, the shape's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But I would mess with the envelope knob up next to the.
Oh yeah, like that. Something like that.
The envelope knob.
Oh, envelope knob. Okay.
Yeah.
Something like
This
that.
helps adjust how hard. And then you can flip it around too.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I basically start with this, and then around now is when I'd write something. So
Okay.
in this case, I just grab the chords from your pad and
Copy paste.
rock on there.
Yeah. Let me see. I don't know if the. Let me go to a new pattern here. Try throw that up an octave. Okay.
Right. So Now is when, so our job here, like we want to make a big like impact chord that hits at the beginnings of things. So it's not going to like linger. It's not a sustain. It's basically just this, but with some reverb. So, reverb.
Reverb. Do like internal. Oh, real quick question. Here's another thing that the guy I was working with kind of told me, and then it confused me. So I was told to do reverb bus auxes, and that he said to use maybe like 1 or 2 or 3 different types of reverb, but he said keep your reverb sizes all about the same size. And he was specifically talking for house music, so I don't know if this is something that should be done in house music or if it doesn't apply in other genres or whatnot. But he was saying that in order to get a good sounding mix, you want to have like all the reverbs sound like they're coming from a similar sized room, because it will confuse the listener if they're inside a club listening to it. If you have different synths and sounds and your drums coming from different size reverbs, he was like, acoustically it doesn't make sense and it makes for a bad mix. So I was wondering if you could speak on that real quick and your opinion on that.
Well, nobody in a club can tell what's happening at that level at all.
Okay.
It's a mono anyway, so the size is irrelevant.
Yeah.
And that but he's still right about certain things. That like that's definitely one of those like the nerds can care about that.
But nerds.
Like that's I can remember a time when I would have unironically said what he said and meant it. And it would be because I could tell that would be a problem, and I'd be all like, "No, conform your verbs." But,
I just see you in the corner, like with a group of like other nerds, and they're like, "What a dweeb! He's not conforming his reverbs. What a oh my god!"
Right, and the second part of that though, the confusing the listener part, is more for me about realism of like what you're hearing. And that only really applies to genres that are supposed to sound real. And for house, though, there is one other consideration that matters more than both of these things combined, which is the rhythm stuff. And I was talking before about that, like extra, like infra EQ, where you're looking at your rhythm EQ, like how much stuff's piling on, and reverb is a huge culprit of muddying up that stuff.
Yeah,
because if it's like other than that, like if its length is not a rhythmic tune, it'll be bad. And if you have a bunch of different ones that are a bunch of different lengths that none of them are tuned, it'll all be bad. But if you have a bunch of different ones that are all respecting specific tune, then it'll be fine. I'm calling it tune. It's rhythmic. It's 8 notes and shit, you know? Like how a bar or whatever. And it's just when the tails are unnecessarily and incorrectly, like rhythmically conformed, like, and if it's like loud enough and present enough that a person's like following it rhythmically, then it'll be a problem. But for the most part, a person has to be able to like identify it, which is for house music is pretty regular, because the big huge wall of reverb is usually a pretty big part of it. And that'll be so you just want it to be a rhythmic time choice is all.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he was telling me to keep it between like 1.5 to like 2 at most on the time, or the decay. Yeah, he was saying that was a good. So you think that's within a window that keeps it rhythmically normal, I guess, for house.
Yep, that's in between 2 kicks.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Interesting. So
that's a lot of house music is like that. A lot of its times are like whatever it's doing, it's got to be a multiple of the kick pattern.
Huh. Okay. Yeah. I see. Okay, so I guess back to this. I forgot how I got aside. Oh yeah, because you were talking about reverb. So I put the reverb on here.
Yeah. Just fucking ruin it with compression. Just like massive ultimate. Just blast. Yeah, all the way up there.
Okay.
Max all the faders, just all of them.
Okay.
Including the input. Yep.
Okay, yeah.
Now play that.
Yes, very, very strong and wally.
All right. So now this is like a nice, like laserish kind of like it's a tone and a hit and whatnot, but this is way, way, way too like clear and present.
Uh-huh.
This would be the class of sound that if someone said like add a whole bunch of things and they thought we were talking about this, they'd be like, no.
Right.
Tell us to back off.
Yeah.
So we want to turn this into that sensation. We want to basically say, let's get as much sound as we can get with as little power as possible.
Okay.
And that usually means aiming things high. So first step after this is in Harmor, I'd go into the randomize knob, the upper left, way up top. It says rand. Yeah, right there.
Presets random right there.
Yep.
Okay.
So, what? No. Oh damn. I did not see that menu. I meant the rand and it says rand right underneath phase.
I was like, Seamless is going rogue. He's going rogue. He's like, I want you to generate the most random preset. Let's just roll the dice on this one.
That's a dice roll.
I want to see what it actually turned into though, real quick.
Go for it.
Nothing. Not one bit.
The faders got turned down. The pre-effects volume is all the way off.
Hey, dude, this is legit like a new sound design tutorial. Like, all right, fuck everything I ever said. Randomize, baby. Let's go. Let's roll the dice. Come on, let's see what we get.
2 hours of like hyper-specific super science, and then okay. And I will do it.
Hey, there's your future April Fool's joke right there. You know, for whatever you do, it's like you should do it like a April Fool's like how to Harmor ultimate guide.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
All right, let me undo that mess here. Where the hell is history?
So like your mouse was over the thing when I was like, yeah, that's it, but it had delayed, and were actually already like.
Did you saw like all the stuff just change, right?
Well, like I didn't see the menu you'd opened until you clicked on the word random, and then only that word showed up. Like,
yeah.
Where the mouse was, and I was just like, what? No.
Oh man. Oh shit. Where the hell is history in this thing? Project back.
You can just Control Alt Z a bunch of times in a row.
Control Alt Z. There we go. All right. So wait, up here.
It's not in the menu. It's a knob.
Oh, it's a knob. Oh, right there. This random.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Other way though.
All right.
So the directions have 2 directions. This direction is the one we want, which is it randomizes the beginning phases of all harmonics individually.
Okay.
So play what that sounds like.
Okay.
Indeed.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So now I'd start like adjusting tonal qualities, and the first big one is that like sound that I want to get rid of. And we're going to do that by increasing the width of the LFO, the low pass filter. Just up there, it says width next to the frequency.
Oh, yeah.
Just turn it up a bunch.
Okay.
Yeah. Turn down the frequency itself, though. Yeah, because so what the width does is that it adjusts, like, how sharp the actual roll-up on the filter is, and then doing that kind of pushes the filter up higher than the position it was at a second ago.
Okay.
So that's why I turned it down a bit.
Gotcha.
Yeah. All right. So now we can start messing with the actual unison. Go to the drop-down menu, the main one, and go to harmonic unison pitch.
Harmonic unison pitch. Harmonic unison. Where are we?
It's in the third list.
There we go. Just something like that, you say? Should I get the pencil?
So favor lower values for the lower end. So like,
okay.
Trend towards the first point being at actual 0.
Oh,
and then just kind of move upwards. Yeah, there you go.
That's already starting to sound better.
Turn up the pitch parameter, the main actual fader in unison.
Oh, yeah.
In unison.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
I would also put a little bit of a bump in between the first two columns of harmonics in that graph there. So the first column could remain 0, and then just put kind of like a big like half circle like right there.
Like something like that.
No, bigger. First two columns. The ones with the big black lines I was referring to. Yeah. Give that a go.
Oh, like that.
Play it. Yeah. Play it. Okay, too much. Way too much.
All right. Tone that back a bit.
You see what we're going for, though.
Yeah, I mean, I can hear it. It sounds better for sure.
Yeah. So this is one of these examples of not fixing a thing too cleanly.
Okay.
Like that kind of warble-ish, like super solid tone is from the fact that it is detuned, so we can't completely undetune it. And harmonic power-wise, the reason why we're able to just mess up as much as we want on the highs and like the lower end is very touch and go is because the lower end has more impact because it's lower. And that like what we just did here is introduce just the finest amount of that actual tone back into the sound while also still having a perfect fundamental, which is nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, go into the advanced tab just to make sure something.
Advanced. Where's advanced tab? Oh, right here.
It's next to the rest of the tabs. Nope.
Advanced. This right here.
There's 4 buttons there. You push 3 of them. Yep, 1, 2, 3. What's the 4th one?
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah, that one right there. Yeah.
All right. Turn ramping almost off. Not completely off, but almost off.
Ramping. Where the hell is
It says
that?
ramp. It's one of the 4 blue knobs. It's the
Oh,
lower,
okay.
low.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So not completely off, but almost off.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
A little bit. Play that up. Let's play it. Yeah. A little bit harder. All right, cool.
Okay.
So right click that EQ knob.
EQ knob. Where?
It says EQ on it. It's blue.
Oh, this
The
right
knob.
there. Oops. Shit. EQ knob.
Nope. It's a knob.
A knob. Oh, okay. Yeah, that one.
Yep. And just bring the bottom down and the high end just kind of leave it there. Just like just take that point and that's fine. That works. That's good. You're good. Give that a go. Excellent. All right. After this, in whatever channel you're in, put on yet another reverb and then yet another compression.
Okay. In the mixer.
Yes.
Okay. No reverb and compression. So let's do Maximus, and then I'll just do I'll do something a little different here.
Yeah, that was also order specific.
Did you say reverb first?
I did.
Okay, there we go. Alrighty.
Some of these plugins sometimes have a timing section that could be tuned to rhythms, but I guess not this one.
Huh. I could
so
change it if you'd like me to.
No, this is fine.
Alright.
So we want to have a kind of a big-ish sound, but a low-ish mix,
Okay.
because we're gonna really get it a lot out of the compression.
Okay.
So we don't want to hear it like as though it's gonna be like we're playing the sound in the Grand Canyon. We wanted to have like, okay, we could tell that there's like a tinge of add to this,
Okay.
and probably a kind of small size, not like the biggest thing in the universe, but like yeah. And then sure, up your low cut. That's a good thing. Turn that up a bitch. Low cut. There you go. Cool. All right, now in Maximus,
Mm-hmm.
turn off LMH mix.
Okay.
So this is kind of funky because what this does is that it stops the compression processing on the LMH, but it's still doing the low, mid, high separation, which can be kind of annoying. So go into bands and turn the low and the high knob all the way down.
All right.
down.
Oh, down.
So with this, we're playing a high enough thing that we're not going to interact with that low band down there. So now we've gotten rid of the phase distortion of the EQs that are making the cuts to make these bands.
Okay.
So now this is just one band, no compression, going into mastering. That's just doing the one compression.
Gotcha.
So that's why that was the maneuver.
Okay.
So on Maximus and the green line, just puff it, just saturate it up. Not the pregain, in the graph, the actual graph. Graph itself.
You're saying
green line.
green line. Oh, this right there.
Green line.
Okay.
Nope.
Do something.
Nope. Tension line.
Tension. Gotcha. Like that.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. And now increase your release time and give that a go. Perfect.
All right.
And this is where play it again.
Okay.
Remember the snail jokes?
Yeah. Yeah. It looks like a snail for sure.
Yeah. It's a little weird, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Well, yeah. So this is a good big chord slapper.
Okay.
This is like whenever I'm like, oh, I need to make an arena sound. This is basically how it's some form of some kind of saw pluck into reverb compression. It's sort of like the lead version of how you do neuro bass processing, but instead of filters and compression, it's reverb and compression.
Okay. Gotcha.
But after this, just high pass the absolute ass out of it.
Okay. With the EQ.
Yes.
Okay. High pass. How something like that?
To taste, they play it, you'll find out.
All right. Maybe pull it back a bit.
Okay. So, right here, probably sounds like not enough. This sounds like, well, this needs reinforcement. Remember, it has reinforcement.
Yeah.
As a song. Because this is not the song. This is not even the main element. This is no longer the thought there.
This is icing on the cake.
Right. So, at this point, we got to hear it in context. So let's hear it in context.
Okay. Let me throw it right here and see what it does. I'll do it before and then after, just to be able to see the difference. Yeah, I can definitely tell it's filling in the those bucket spaces pretty well.
Yep. And you basically need like 7 more of those, all doing different things. So not like 7 layers on that one chord slap, but like, okay, now have some ARP doing some shit. Now have some ARP doing some shit faster. Now have some chord that's doing a rhythm that's different, but not a rhythm that's so different that you actually can individually discern it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. So when I do those sounds, those are all going to play at the same time, right?
No.
No. Oh, no. Okay.
Well, like they'll all eventually be on at once, but the idea is that the space that we're filling is not just a frequency-based one; it's also a timing-based one.
Okay.
And even though we do want the space that has the timing holes to be filled up and with it, we don't want it to be filled in with things that are as intense as the things that are the rhythm.
Okay.
Because like we want to be able to hear that da 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 da. Now we gotta make the da.
I see. Gotcha.
And when your teacher's talking about confusing listeners, that's what confuses them. Is when you have a main rhythm and that's the main deal, but then there's a kind of extra like counter elements that are, instead of being underneath the rhythm and helping it, it's like exactly up there with it, and it's literally countering it. It's like, stop it.
I see. Are you talking about like the off beats or whatever?
If they're too far off.
Yeah.
And you like as a producer in it, nerd facing it, which is to say that you are way more familiar with it than like a listener would be.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to feel an intense desire to make it that complicated without realizing it.
Yeah.
But a lot, like for this example, this thing that we just did, that high passing of being like, you definitely would have had the urge to make that harder and cleaner and louder by itself before you tried that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you want to avoid. You want to avoid also that instinct for the rhythm, because you're going to think that too.
Okay.
You're going to be like, oh, I made this like beady hitty dealy, and then when it's on with the thing, I can only tell that like there's like an EQ change that just happened to the track. I can't actually tell that the rhythm adjustment happened. And you're going to want to be like, I'll change it to be a more interesting rhythm, and don't do that.
Avoid that at all costs.
Just let it be the EQ change, because that is what we are doing. That is the whole plan.
Okay. All right.
That's why I refer to it as sleight of hand, because if we did the job right, it will not sound like we've got a billion things. It'll sound like the things have help.
Ah, okay. Yeah. Yes, this is like the area where this is actually pretty new territory for me, as far as, because I've done all the like groundwork essentially, but like this finer sort of filling in the fine details is an area where it's just like, oh man, it's about like I've been like skipping leg day of my life in this area for my whole life, and it's like, all right, seamless, load up that rack, baby.
Calling it leg day is a pretty good way to refer to it as, because this is an entire class of music theory education that everybody who doesn't go to school for theory for this avoids doing, because it's orchestration.
Mm-hmm.
It's about like when people do symphonies, this is almost the whole work. Like they're not actually spending all this time writing genius melodies and then that's what they're doing. They wrote the genius melody in about 4 seconds, and then they're spending the rest of their life trying to figure out how to fill in the buckets.
Yeah. It really sounds like an art in of itself.
It's old school sound design, orchestration, like figuring out what instruments at what times and rhythms and timings and intensities is exactly the same kind of sound design as us messing around with harmonics. And that and we're still using a bit of that technique here with like the notes and stuff, like the idea of like if one instrument's playing a chord and the other instrument is playing that exact same chord in the exact same register, but they are arpeggiating it, you can now tell that there are two things.
Yeah, you said you can or can't tell.
You can.
Okay.
You now are able, because there's officially an individual extra dimension of change, but there was only one extra dimension of change. It wasn't a new note, it wasn't a new register, it wasn't like tremendously a different enough sound that could have just played the same note and you can tell it was different. It was similar enough that the actual sound design was the choice for it to be arpeggiated.
Yeah.
So that's what we're working with here, where the actual sound design choice is like, this was a dumb super saw, like it barely needed to exist, but it does still need to happen, and its importance is still mostly a timing thing.
Yeah.
Which is why we began with the big hit that happens every bar. Just like rhythm, hit, 1, go. And so like after this, the next thing I would try is Arps. And after that's faster Arps. After that, like I might try like, and when I say faster chords, I mean, okay, now it might happen on the 1 and the 3. Like not that much faster.
Yeah. I gotcha. Okay.
It's like the drums of melodic stuff.
Yeah. The fine little percussive details between all the big macro melodic events happening, I guess, right?
Yeah, just pretend you're John Williams.
John Williams. I think he did like the E.T. soundtrack.
He did E.T., Indiana Jones, Star Wars, Jaws, basically everything good.
Yeah, I think Harold Faltermeyer is one of my John Williams, Harold Faltermeyer, and then what's his name? The one who did Batman and Nightmare Before, Danny Elfman. I like his
Elfman,
yeah, Elfman. I like his.
Elfman's another one of those bucket dudes. Like he's definitely like John Williams and Elfman are both exactly like the orchestra versions of what I'm talking about, where they come up with the themes and then the instruments are just filler from now on. They exist to be like visual cues for the things that are happening. That's something that I always love about Williams, is like he musically cues the screen wipes.
Really?
Yeah, like it'd be think of any Star Wars scene, and then think of that like harp, like Tiffany transition every time like the screen wipe happens, and then it's the next scene.
Yeah.
Like that, like it's stuff you don't even think about while you're seeing it, but it elevates it because it's unified.
Yeah. He was really good. It's funny because I know exactly I played back in the day. I played the Star Wars game for the N64. I think you played as like a guy
Pod
named.
Racer.
No, it wasn't Pod Racer. It was like a whole game. There was pod racing in there. The first level was Hoth.
Outcast.
I think the first level was like you were on the snow Hoth level.
Yeah, you played a guy. Like,
yeah, a guy. I think his name was like Lando, or no, I don't. No, it wasn't Lando.
It wasn't any of the main characters. I remember this game you're talking about.
Dude, it was so good. It was so good.
Did you ever figure out the cheats for it?
Wampa Stompa.
Like, oh, you had the PC version?
No, I had the 64 version, but there was a cheat code literally called Wampa Stompa. What was there other cheat codes besides that one?
Well, I remember one that was you had to hold a combination of buttons.
Really?
You had to like, yeah, it was like, okay, press this and then press this and then press this, and you had to hold all the buttons while you were doing it.
Yeah.
But you had to press every single button on the controller.
Oh no!
And hold it. Like if you let go, you did it wrong.
No.
And it was just like the everything cheat. Like it turned on like everything, and it was like the dev mode or whatever.
Yeah.
But I remember having fun because you could lower gravity, and I did.
What?
And then you would jump with the jetpack and knock them down.
Oh my god, that's hilarious. Oh,
Like
would you enter to the fog of war?
Yeah, you would. It would. You wouldn't be able to see anything, but then the reason you would die is because you would reach the apex of your ascent and then immediately start falling, and the game detects that you are way too high, and then does that like
yeah. The Wilhelm scream, perhaps. I don't know. I remember the scream. It was like man, that'd be funny if like if they considered that and they made it to where your oxygen level just started decreasing. They're like, oh, fucker went out of orbit. Oh, well, I guess his oxygen is gonna go down.
Oh, yeah. They've thought of a lot of things for those consoles that had almost no space.
Dude, so I got two things I got to say about this. Right, kind of like I saw the most amazing video in relation to video games. I know we're getting close to ending the video, so I'll end it on this. I had a buddy send me a video for Zelda Ocarina of Time, and do you know what a TASBot is?
What?
A TASBot, TASBOT. Have you ever heard of that? Okay, I didn't.
Oh, wait, the assisted tools?
Yeah, I guess.
Tool assisted speedrunning.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so this is fucking amazing. So these guys, some guy was playing Zelda Ocarina of Time. He was speedrunning it, and at one point in the game, he was playing on a regular ass Nintendo 64 and a normal, like, unmodified Zelda Ocarina of Time cartridge, right? So there's no modifications. He was just speedrunning. And he found this really weird glitch at some point in the game that pushed him into a debug, like, mod part of the game. And he's like, what? He's like, what is this? And I'll send you the video. It's fucking amazing. But basically what they found was there was some sort of like whole area, and it's in every Zelda game ever made, right? So if you have Zelda Ocarina of Time for the 64, you can do this. There was this section where it started asking for inputs on the controller, and it would unlock all sorts of crazy shit in the game. And apparently there's just so much content that didn't make it into the original game, like whole entire side quests, right? And one of the side quests that you can do, so what they did was they got TASBot to sort of input every single possible code and that could possibly be entered, and it unlocks all the content, right? And so the first part of this video is them explaining this, and they do this like run. But at a certain part of the game, one of the things he showed was there's like items that never existed in the game that they actually have pictures for and like real stuff. But did you ever play Ocarina of Time?
Yeah.
Okay, so do you remember that guy who's like the fastest runner in the world and like you can't beat him at the race or something?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a part in the game where you race him, and with the codes or whatever that taskbar unlocks, it makes it possible to beat him. But what you actually do is you travel back in time to Adult Link, and you get to where he ends up in the Child Link's world, and then you warp back and you actually beat him. And he's like, what? He goes, this is impossible. He goes, you beat me. He goes, well, I guess there's a special reward for beating me, right? And then you go to the location of what it is, and it's this giant red rupee, and you get it, and it explodes, and it pushes you back, and he runs up to you, and he's like, ha-ha! And he's like, you're a cheater. And he's like, the only way you could have figured out how to beat me is cheating. And he's like, now you must die. And then you got to fight him, and it's actually like, he fucking whoops a lot of ass, and he's really fast and hard to beat. But anyway, it's just like weird shit in the game. It's like a whole new game with everything that's unlocked. I'll send you the video in Discord. It's pretty cool. But anyway, it's just like it was like there's so much content that was undiscovered in Zelda, and they just recently figured it out. So I was like, wow, that's fucking awesome. So
That's pretty good shit.
yeah, I love that kind of stuff. So, well, anyway, as far as like, I know I need to add more stuff, but I guess I think I already know the answer. Is I was gonna ask what should I work on and filling in the details. But I guess with like different rhythms and stuff of kind of like what we did in this video, just like find things to fill it in with.
Yeah, different, but don't be too different. We are accentuating the things that are already there. That's the plan. That's the thought. And
Okay.
Our goal is not to make some new super thing. That's the new super thing.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. So it's just like adding just fine details to what's already there, but just within those little spaces, I guess, so to say.
Yep.
Okay, cool, man, cool. Should I be using sounds that are similar to how the sound design of this super saw is that we created in Harmer, the super saw plucky sound?
That's an easy place to start. Really, whatever works. Like I hear all kinds of stuff that when I hear individually as sounds, I'm all like, oh, yeah. But then I hear in a song that someone used for this purpose, and I go, oh, that like worked.
Yeah.
So it could be almost anything as long as it doesn't, violate the main.
Okay, so it should. I guess one key thing to focus on is it should complement the track, but it shouldn't be so overwhelmingly powerful that it starts to steal the attention away from the main sort of elements in the track, right?
Correct.
Okay, gotcha. Sounds good, man. Sounds good.
That's it.
Yeah, cool, man. Well, I appreciate all the help, and I will see you either next Saturday or whenever the next time it is. So,
That sounds like a plan.
cool, man. Have a good weekend. I'll talk to you later.
All right. Peace.